Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Good morning to Bullish Bull and a happy new year to you, sir. Good morning, KB, Hidden. Good morning, Danny, Mary, and Kishan. I hope you're very well. And everybody who is watching on Binance Square, Workshop, Bash, Baxi. Good morning, Baxi. I hope you're well. Crypto City, Adrian, Mask. There's a lot of people watching today, which is nice, considering it is a Monday and we should probably start the show. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. 26th of January already. It's the 1st of February on Sunday. Where has January gone? We've seen 4 weeks come and go in the blink of an eye. And we are back on this Monday morning with a busy show. We are going to get into it. We are going to be talking about some predictions. We've got some market predictions from a Bloomberg analyst, and I'm going to give you some Bitcoin and Ethereum bottoms between now and May. And there's nothing better than talking about bottoms on a Monday morning with yours truly. Now we're going to talk about the sell-off. We're going to talk about the predictions. We're going to talk about Solana, the Clarity Act. We're going to talk about Hedera. We're going to talk about XRP, and we're going to talk about Cathie Wood and their latest ETF. And, of course, we've got the X-Files. And, of course, we have the prices. We're going to have a look at them in a minute. We're trying to make a few changes to the quiz to get it to work on Twitch. And I don't know if we've mentioned this to you, probably on the last quiz. Lots of new people here. So, basically, at the minute, the quiz only works on YouTube. It doesn't work on Twitch. It doesn't work on Binance Square. We're working on Binance Square as well. We're trying to talk to them to get them to give us the go-ahead. So I don't know if we're going to have a quiz on Wednesday yet. If we do, we might have a trial quiz on Wednesday that isn't really associated with anybody. Maybe we just have a bit of a fun quiz over on Wednesday. But I've booked nothing in the calendar. This week, I've got Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday booked in for me to do daily streams. The Oracle needs to set up his streams. I think he's going to stream tonight, maybe Thursday night as well. And if you're on Binance Square, we can't add all of our streams in one go. Their system only allows us to add a couple of streams. So don't expect to see hundreds and hundreds of Crypto Warehouse streams set up over there. We kind of do them one at a time. But they are there. And good morning to Tariq. I hope you are well. I was wondering if Tariq was ill or busy with work because I haven't seen him in an age. And I did reply to your DM, by the way. I suppose we should go and have a look at the markets. We've lost $3 trillion. Bitcoin is below $88,000. Ethereum is below $2,900. Look away now if you don't want to see the results of today's matches. BNB is below $900. XRP is below $2. Cardano is below 40 cents. Monero is going to crash and burn, thankfully. Chainlink is below $12. I mean, there was a guy in one of the Telegram groups talking about the fact that crypto as a project has failed. And I basically said, listen, it's not failed. It's not really started. The internet, which was 6 years in the making, was an overnight success. But it took 6 years to be an overnight success. Crypto is not going to go anywhere. A lot of these projects, yes, they will fall and fail as their VC money runs out. But Bitcoin isn't going anywhere. Ethereum isn't going to go anywhere. These projects, these very large projects, they're not going to go anywhere. And if they do, it's going to take them an awfully long time, especially as Ethereum is going to become the blockchain of TradFi. Bitcoin, we know about Bitcoin. Solana is making massive waves. XRP. These are big projects. They're not going to go anywhere overnight. What it tells me, though, it tells me there's a bottom signal. When people message me about buying Bitcoin, that's normally a top signal. And we mentioned this back in October. I was getting DMs on Facebook, which I don't really use anymore. I was getting DMs over on WhatsApp as well. People messaged me on WhatsApp. Should I buy Bitcoin? What else should I buy? And I think I said at the stream one time it's a top signal. And I think a few of you were there when I said that. I do believe when people start talking about crypto and Bitcoin being a failed project, I do believe that there is an element of a bottom signal in there for me. And I think the reason is that the majority of people expected the blow off top, me included, and we didn't get it. And I think it just takes people longer to come to terms with the fact that we're in a very slow bleeding bear market than mass capitulation, which I've made 3 videos about now, by the way. I made another video on Saturday, I think it was, I put it up, about the fact that Bitcoin is simply going to bleed to the right over the next 3 or 4 months. And my prediction for 2026, which we're not going to cover in my other predictions, is I think Bitcoin finishes the year higher than it opens the year. That's my prediction. But anyway, the point of the matter is, when we see the people saying that Bitcoin is a failed project and crypto has failed, I think we're starting to smell. It's like smelling concrete when it rains. You can smell a bottom signal. The Greenland, the tariffs, it all smells bottomy. And we're talking about bottoms an awful lot on this stream, and I'm not talking about smelling bottoms, but I think there is a sense in the air that I am in a hole right now talking about smelling bottoms, and that's not what I meant to talk about. What I mean is, when we get to this is kind of our depressed capitulation where people just give up. We can tell by the numbers watching the streams and watching the videos that people have just given up, and that normally indicates a bottom. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but I do think there's a bottom. And I nearly sold my Ethereum today. I looked at the chart before I did the stream today and I went, I should just sell my Ethereum, put it on the side and wait. And I nearly did. I nearly pressed the sell button. I had my Ethereum, I had them, I pressed max and I nearly pressed sell. It nearly happened. Again, I think that indicates to me that we are somewhere near a bottom. Maybe not the full bottom of 2026, but we're somewhere near a local bottom, I think. And by the way, I didn't sell my Ethereum yet. It hasn't been sold. Now then, let's go over and have a look at the markets. Good morning, Triple B. Good morning, Oliver. Good morning, Bin. Velva. I don't co-host anybody. Please don't ask for that. It's not going to happen. Good morning, Simon. I hope you are well. Tariq has been busy. That's good to hear. Let's get on with the show. As you can see, Simon, 2020 vision. My eyes are fixed. Right, let's have a look at some gainers and losers then. River is up. Morpho, Algorand, just gold. I mean, gold is absolutely tearing everybody. $5,000 plus now for gold. I should probably really think about selling my gold, which I bought 20 years ago. Think maybe more. I should probably think about physically selling my gold. And as you can see, whenever we look at the top gainers from the last 24 hours, whenever you see stable coins, it means when I press this button here, the 24 hour to look at losers, it's going to be a sea of double-digit red. Be prepared. Take a breath. Not that bad. Not that bad. World Liberty Finance at 16 cents. Dash is coming down. Mantle, Monero, Immutable X, Jupiter. Listen, I know we talk about projects which are failed projects. I know we talk about projects that cover many different things, security tokens, AI tokens, we cover all these things. I am telling you right now, Uniswap, Jupiter, Aster, World Liberty Financial, these are not bad projects. Mantle, great project. These are not bad projects. When you see them at 20 cents, $4.62, Pump.fun is down there. I mean, this thing is, just to put Pump.fun into context, they sold, what was it? $1 billion worth of tokens, something like that. Their market cap is $890 million. Look at Solana at $122, $69 million market cap. I mean, Aerodrome, 45 cents. I mean, yes, there's a load of crap down here. WorldCoin is crap, Pi is crap. I'm glad WorldCoin and Pi are down here, to be honestly, but there's so many bargains, and we're in a bear market. Yes, maybe these prices come lower. Yes. But listen, these are good, solid projects down here in the bottom. I mean, I don't even want to look at the 7-day losers. Monero and Dash privacy tokens are down there. Athena is down there. Story. Arbitrum is down there. Aerodrome is down 10%. Polygon's going to break 10 cents. And again, none of that makes any sense in my eyes. Ethereum down there. It's the 12th biggest loser of the week, down 10% at $2,900. Again, these are the times to consider what tokens you want to buy into. Okay? If we're going to have a bear market, and I think a minimum is going to be November, December, January, February, March, April. The minimum length of our bear market is going to be April. So, what can you look at there, bookmark, and say, these are going to be the tokens that maybe I can pick up over the course of the next 6 to 12 months. That's the way I would look at it. Now, polymarket traders now give a 77% chance of another US government shutdown by January the 31st. Remember this. There are still the black swans out there, and people want to know, why did we dump on Sunday night? Why did we dump? Why does crypto always dump? Why does this happen? Crypto is 24/7, 365. Crypto is constant every single day. You can get up at 9 a.m. on Christmas Day morning and trade Bitcoin. You can get up on Valentine's Day at 2 p.m. in the afternoon and trade Ethereum. You can trade whenever you want. You can't trade the stock market. So when you see a dump on a Sunday afternoon or a Sunday evening, wherever you may be in the world, remember the stock markets don't react in the same time frame as crypto. Crypto is all the time. Stocks are some of the time. Stocks are what, 8:30 till 4:30, 9 till 5, something like that. Then you've got the UK and the European markets. Then you've got the American markets. Then you've got the Asian markets, and they kind of overlap by an hour here or there. But we react faster than any other industry to the stuff like this. The government shutdown by January the 31st is a possibility. There are many other possibilities. Canada being hit with a 100% tariff, that's the other one. Does a 100% tariff on Canada, does that make the slightest difference? No. But the bad news does. Okay, on the grand scheme of things, Canada is a sprat in the ocean. Okay, you've got the whales like China, America, maybe the European bloc is a whale, and then you've got Canada. What does Canada produce? Maple syrup. What else does it produce? I don't know. Can't think of anything that comes out of Canada. I'm sure they do something up there other than freeze to death in the cold. But they make maple syrup. Do I care? No, I don't. I'll just have honey instead of maple syrup. So this kind of stuff is irrelevant, but the FUD matters. This is bigger. The government shutdown, I don't remember a government shutdown in January, but it wouldn't surprise me if this happens. Because why? Because the Democrats want to make the Republicans' life as hard as possible. So expect these types of things to pop up, and it's going to suppress the market. But like I said, what do we come down to? We'll look at the Bitcoin chart in a minute. We came down below 87,000. Now we're back at, what, 87,500. It happens. Blame Canada. Absolutely. What do I think of VeChain? I like VeChain, but it seems to be... VeChain's one of those cryptocurrencies that's been around since about the 1940s. And I actually reached out to VeChain. I can't show you my inbox, but I did actually reach out to VeChain to bring them onto Binance Square. We've contacted a few people that want to do AMAs with. Remarket is another one of them. Sorry, Remora is another one of them. That's a Solana project which is looking at synthetic assets. We've contacted VeChain, we've contacted Remora, and we've contacted somebody else. And what we're going to do is, in the trenches, hasn't gone anywhere, but I don't... You understand why AMAs and interviews are full-time jobs for certain content creators, okay? So you look at Mr. Shift, for example. His sole job is interviewing people. Now, that interview might be an hour or an hour and a half, but by God, it takes 20 or 30 hours to arrange some of these interviews. So you understand why these things take so long. So in the trenches hasn't gone anywhere. It's just so difficult tying up people to get them on. And VeChain is somebody that we want to get onto Binance Square. We are talking to them, but it takes forever. They're on these constant road trips of going to different conferences, and we don't want, you know, a junior programmer from their back office on the show. We'd like somebody a little bit higher up to come on. So we are working on VeChain and talking to VeChain and things like that. Maple is tasty, and I like maple syrup, and I like Canadians. Okay, I like Canadians. My favourite footballer of all time is a chap called Kevin Francis. He was 6'7". He played for Stockport County, and he is now a mounted police officer in Canada. Now think of that for a minute. He's a 6'7" man on the back of a horse. I mean, what gets scarier than that? I mean, I'm sure the Canadian Bears run away from him when they see him coming. Now then, I don't think this is a wise move, by the way. Bhutan takes Psy Token to the next level. I believe they've set up a validator node. That's going to go live in the next couple of months. They were basically stacking Bitcoin, and they're now looking at other ways to bring crypto and blockchain into their, what are they, a principality? I don't know what they are, but they're a very small nation, and they are going to move into say. I don't think this is a wise move, in all honesty, and the reason being is when you're in crypto and when you're in the stage of crypto we're in now, you should really back the winning horses. Because yes, there will be horses that come from the pack. Yes, there will be horses that didn't even start the race, that enter late and do run. But I wouldn't be backing some of these smaller chains. Just because some guy in a suit turns up from say and tells you it's a really good idea doesn't mean you should go with it. Now then, not sure who needs to hear this, but we're here. The past few years in crypto were tough for a reason. Getting past the turning point is the hardest part of any tech cycle. Most don't even make it through. We did. Going to be some fun years ahead. Golden Age is next. Now, Simon Dedek, I kind of follow him, and he is a grumpy man, okay? And I like that, because I like grumpy people who aren't constantly happy about everything in life. You need a bit of realism. Now, he has put up this chart, which I'm going to try and fit onto the screen. Let's see if you can see that. Yeah, you're on the screen. Look, there it is. There. Right. So, good morning, Mags. You have what is titled here as the installation period and the deployment period of tech. And what they have drawn here, and again, please bear in mind, take everything you see with a pinch of salt. People who talk about Bitcoin following the M2 money supply, people who talk about Bitcoin following the price of pork bellies and orange, take it all with a pinch of salt. But take away from this, and that's the adoption curve. You've got eruption, frenzy, synergy, and maturity. According to the person who drew this chart, they believe we are in the period between frenzy and synergy. We're in the period where the financial system is coming on board. We're growing, we're integrating into the financial system. The financial system is being assimilated to the blockchain tech. That's what's happening right now. And all these people who were talking about bottoms, it's because people are thinking that Bitcoin is a failed project, crypto is a failed project. You do not get Larry Fink sit there at Davos, at the World Economic Forum, talking about how if we don't bring crypto to the masses, we have failed. We don't get to that stage if we've failed. We get to that stage before we get to the golden age. The internet was pilloried by everybody until they realized, and the penny dropped, that this was a great way for them to sell more of their business, sell more of their services, and like a light switch, it came on. And what do I say to you all the time? It's nowhere, then everywhere, all at once. Nowhere, then everywhere, all at once. And it will happen before your eyes. And it is happening before your eyes. Okay? The price of Bitcoin is absolutely irrelevant at this moment in time. And I'm not shunning away from price targets. Adoption is a light switch moment. Now, a light switch moment from setting up a website and selling BlackRock tokens, selling BlackRock services, is a lot easier than having a 24/7, 365 stock exchange running on Ethereum, powered by BlackRock, and Chainlink being fed by the New York Stock Exchange, which has also gone 24/5, okay? Think about the two differences. Any idiot can make a website, and stick it up there with a phone number on, and you call them, or an inquiry form, and then you phone them. And then you build a back-end system, and then you build a system on top, and suddenly you've got online banking. That's easy. Think about what we're talking about here. We're talking about moving the stock exchange into crypto, into Web3, into the blockchain. Don't tell me that an industry has failed because your tokens didn't 100x. This is a massive, massive sea change that's happening before your very eyes. Okay? You need patience. If you believe that DeFi is going to win and you hold DeFi tokens, you hold them. If you think Bitcoin is the only thing in the world that's ever going to work, you hold Bitcoin. You have to have conviction. Okay? What did I say, or what's my message on the very front page today? I know of no better life's purpose than to perish in attempting the great and impossible. Bitcoin is attempting the great and impossible, changing the entire financial system. It was the spark that started the fire. So, bear in mind where we are in the cycle. Bear in mind that we are not going anywhere. And bear in mind that all this capitulation and all this misery is part of what it's like being on the roller coaster. That's investment. And if you think investment in crypto is any different to everything else, you've got another thing coming. Now then, Chainlink, which is, again, if you don't hold any Chainlink, and this isn't financial advice, you have to go and understand what Chainlink is. And I'm not going to go over it because I sound like a stuck record. Stablecoins are the tip of the iceberg. Tokenize everything equals Chainlink everything. Now, what do you think a tokenized stock exchange, where do you think they get their numbers from? Chainlink. Where do you think Solana's, Remora, and everybody else that offers it, Ondo as well, where do they get their tokenized prices from? Chainlink. Everything comes through Chainlink. Chainlink is the conduit. Stable coins are the tip of the iceberg. Everything will be tokenized. It just will take time. Now, we've seen a lot of these. Corporate debt, yes. Equities, yes. Funds, commodities, treasuries, yes, yes, yes. Real estate, not quite there yet. Insurance, not there yet. Infrastructure, not really there yet. Private credit, yes. You look at Maple Finance, things like that. So there's a lot to come. And Chainlink will be involved at every single stage and every single level. And again, I don't care if it's $11, $15. That is going to be a very valuable asset. Now, moving on. Economic calendar for this week. Monday, nothing. I don't really think confidence is important. I can't see anything on here on Wednesday apart from the FOMC interest rate decision. We know they're not going to cut rates. Powell's going to give his press conference. Do not leverage Kishan on Wednesday. Don't leverage on Wednesday, okay? I know you're going to paste a screenshot in Telegram of how much you make on Wednesday, but one day it's going to bite you on the bottom. Wednesday's the big day. After Wednesday, you've got the jobless claims. Friday, you've got core PPI. Big day on Friday, big day on Wednesday. This is a big week, okay? And if we are going to see a government shutdown on the 31st or on the 30th, which is Friday, then expect absolute chaos on crypto over the weekend, okay? We're going to maybe we break 80,000 on Friday or Saturday. If we have a government shutdown, okay, I'm not sure a government shutdown has been priced in. I don't know if it has. I doubt it very much. But I do think the dip that we've seen, the $2,000 dip that we've seen, $1,500 dip we've seen, I'm sure there's a lot of that as priced in. I'm not overly sure it's going to happen. You can't base everything off predictions markets because that's just a gambling site. I don't know. I think no rate cut is the number one thing that we're going to see on Wednesday. Then we'll look at inflation on Friday, and then we'll see. Just get through the next few weeks. All we've got to do is get through till May, okay? Then get through the summer, and then we should start coming out the other side. I'm not overly panicking about where we are. Now, before we go any further, as I promised, for those of you that watch over on Binance Square, what we do is every day for the next God knows how many days, we are going to be dropping red packets. Okay, I'm probably going to be dropping them for the next month or two, and the reason is that we won a prize from Binance Square, and one of the things we said we'd give some money back, so we're going to drop some boxes. We drop them every few. What is wrong with the price of syrup? Exactly the same thing that is the wrong with the price of everything else right now. Basically, very quickly, syrup could not break 40 cents. Couldn't break it. It spent 8 or 9 days trying to break 40 cents. What is the price of syrup today? Let me very quickly have a look. I'm not going to go off on a tangent, don't worry. What is the price of syrup? About 34, 35 cents. Let's have a look. There it is. 33 cents. Yeah. Basically, we got rejected off 40 cents. We couldn't break it. Two things happen. We keep trying to break it. We come down. We came down. So, again, is this a good time to be looking at buying syrup? I think so. We're back at where we started. Or not started. We're back at where we were 30 days ago. If you look at this entire period up here, we tried to break 40 cents and we couldn't. Then when the market comes down, syrup follows the market. If you want to know what's happening to syrup, look at Bitcoin. Syrup is going to outperform Bitcoin in the next 6 to 12 months simply because the metrics of the price of syrup do not and have not caught up with the metrics of Maple Finance. The price of a token does not necessarily reflect the price of a project. I say that quite a lot. And in the case of Aerodrome, in the case of Jupiter, in the case of Syrup, the token price is following the market. The token price is not following the performance of the project. There's a massive, massive sea world of difference. And that's why you should be looking to pick up the Aerodromes, the Jupiters, and the Syrups of this world. Now, Bitcoin sell-off into weekly close as bulls face 86,000 Bitcoin price reckoning. Bitcoin begins losing gains as US futures prepare to open as markets geared up to deal with a host of potential downside volatility catalysts. Again, it's not necessarily the news itself, it's the FUD around the news that causes the problems. Bitcoin heads lower as there is a lot of macro and economic volatility. Downside risks firmly outweigh the odds of upside, absolutely. Bullish divergence against silver offers a glimmer of hope. Nope, there is no hope for me right now at this moment in time. Longs got liquidated. There was $250 million worth of longs last night that got liquidated. But again, when Bitcoin comes down, it doesn't come down forever. When Bitcoin goes up, it doesn't go up forever. So when you see sharp moves, you normally get a little bit of a bounce back to the upside. So let's not panic too much. Unless Trump comes out and says he's going to invade Greenland, and then we can all just go away for a few weeks and come back, and Bitcoin will be back at 86,000. Buckle up for a huge week ahead. Trump's tariff threats on Canada, the Federal Reserve decision on interest rates we've covered. We've also got the possibility of the government shutdown, as we've said. I don't see... Yeah, so the CME Group have said that there's a 2.8% chance of a 0.25% rate cut. I don't think they're going to... Why are they going to cut rates when the economy is doing so well? GDP is up 4.4%. I think unemployment isn't going up too much. I don't think they're going to cut rates, and that's not great for us. Amongst traders, the low time frame Bitcoin price trading range was first on the list of issues to deal with. Price is currently losing the mid-range, which is a bearish sign for continuation to the downside. To the range lows, said Crypto Nuevo, eyeing exchange order book liquidity. He puts bulls at 86.3 based on Bitcoin losing the mid-range. Any short-lived pump this week is a potential short opportunity. I agree with that. For the first time in history, Bitcoin might print a bullish divergence against silver on the 3-day time frame. I don't care about Bitcoin and silver. I don't give a monkeys. Gold and silver, palladium, all of those other tokens, they're all going to rally to the upside. They're all going to have a great period of time because we're in that type of market. And I don't know if anybody saw the report on copper. The copper shortage is going to run for the next, I don't know what it was actually, was it 4 years or the next 14 years? There's going to be a massive shortage in copper. So if you want to go and buy a metal and you don't want to buy gold and silver, it appears to be copper, because if there isn't enough copper, the price will go up. It's pretty much simple economics. And unlike gold, where they keep finding seams and seams of gold, I don't know where we get copper from. So if we can't get copper, and copper is going to go become a scarcer asset, the price is going to go up. Simple as. Now then, 2026 outlook, top predictions from Bloomberg analyst. Here we go. Why do they make the text so small? How are we supposed to read this stuff out so you can actually read what I'm reading? A risk-off scenario. Yep, I totally agree with that. This is one of the most elements, is the expectation that US equities might struggle for a third year. The S&P 500, which has already endured elevated volatility since 2024, could remain under pressure. At the same time, key commodities are projected to move sharply lower in a slowdown scenario. Crude oil could slide towards $40 a barrel. Copper may retreat to $4. I would be buying copper. Agricultural markets may not be spared either. Corn prices potentially drifting towards $3.50. Now, just let me point something out. This might be bad for the markets, but this is brilliant for human beings. Okay? Cheaper oil, cheaper corn, great for people. Okay? Cheaper copper, great for businesses to make things, therefore cheaper for you. So, you know, this idea of having inflation at 2.5% is absolute BS. Inflation should be 0 or minus 0.1%, because guess what? At 0% inflation, your goods cost you the same amount of money every year. 2.5% inflation is an absolute lie to rob you of your money, because that $100 in your pocket is $97.50 this time next year. But the governments are happy with that because it shows growth. And all they care about is growth outstripping inflation. That's all they care about. They don't care about you. So is $40 a barrel good for you? Yes, absolutely. Is corn going to $3.50 great for you? Yes. Egg prices, the lowest they've been in America for God knows how many years. Is that great for you? Yes. Don't care about these people in suits. Care about you. Now then, Bitcoin, it suggests we could trend towards $50,000 if risk appetite fades and liquidity tightens. McGlone suggests that a sustained move below key psychological levels would reinforce the broader risk-off narrative forming across markets. Now, Bitcoin has never gone much below its previous bull market all-time high, and that stands at about $69,000. And we can go back and look at the previous one, which was about $17,000 or $18,000. Where did we come in 2022, 2023? We came to $17,000. So I don't believe these experts that start talking about prices for Bitcoin, which are substantially lower. That's about 30% lower than the previous bull market all-time high. So I'm not going to sit in that camp of $50,000. But again, it's not my job to sit here and tell you what to believe. It's my job to show you what other people are saying and then give you my opinion. What would prove him wrong? What would invalidate this? A Bitcoin price that holds above $100,000 would signal ongoing risk appetite. Yeah, I agree with that. Copper staying north of 6, but this isn't really to do with why it would stay above these figures. So basically, if the price stays higher, he's wrong. But why would the price stay high? Would that not be the point? Anyway, so he's predicting some nonsense things. Now, what I'm going to do is I don't bring up charts very often, and I did say I would look at Bitcoin, and today I'm going to look at Ethereum as well. And I'm going to give you where I think Bitcoin is going to come to this year. And I'm going to tell you where I think Ethereum is going to come to this year. Now, I've stripped away. I always make lovely drawings on our charts, and then when I come to do these live streams, they're full of squiggles, so I've had to remove them all. Now then, we said during this period that we would make this move back up, tick. We would say then move back down here, tick. Now, in a bearish scenario, where are we coming? I think we need to not go below that line there, which is Liberation Day. And I have said for many, many times in the past that we need to kind of hold that line there, which is about 85.3. If we lose 85.3 and we don't want to go down towards that 74, 75 range, then the big number, psychological number for me is 80,000. So as long as we hold above about 85,500, I am more than happy. Okay, 85,500. Timescales. We've got the new Fed chair coming in here. So what we have to do, in my humble opinion, is finish or get to this point either doing this or doing this or doing this. I don't care. Now, that line there is the new Fed chairman, but it's not just the new Fed chairman, it's also the start of the pre-midterm election run-up from Donald Trump. So as well as having the new Fed chairman, we are also going to get, number two, we're also going to get a rate cut because the new Fed chair will not be allowed to come in and not cut rates. So he's going to cut rates. Number three is they're going to get stimmy checks. They're going to get paid, basically. The American government are going to give everybody $2,000 or something ridiculous. Why is that important? Because it's the start of summer. And I've said this in videos, and I've said this in videos before. You've got to look at the human aspect of this. This is all happening middle to end of May. You've then got June, July, and August. So you've got the 3-month holiday period. And that 3-month holiday period is where everyone goes on holiday. And everyone has a good time. And you've got the sun shining. Okay, everyone's in the sun. Everyone's got 2K in their pockets in America. And everyone's got some very nice drinks. Okay, everyone's happy for that period of time. Then we get to October. Then we get the midterms. And then we go higher. So that is your macro. And in between, you might have something happen in Taiwan. You might have something happen in the Ukraine. You might have something else happen in Canada with tariffs. All of these things is just noise. But we are going to see the change start here. And then it will ramp up here. And as I have said in my other videos, we are going to finish this year higher than when we started it, in my opinion. We started this year at about 80, well, pretty much I think where we are now, about $88,000. So I think we're going to finish the year above $90,000. And then I think we're going to go into next year a little bit happier. But remember, no blow off top. No sad $50,000 Bitcoin. That's my prediction for Bitcoin. Now, Ethereum, where does Ethereum go if Bitcoin goes to $74,000, $79,000? Good morning, Manjeet. I hope you are well. And that is, I think, and I've had to pre-draw these because the stream's going to take forever otherwise. There is a massively bullish line here, which is coming in at about $2,200. This is why I nearly sold my Ethereum today. Ethereum has kind of done the same thing as Bitcoin, but actually done what Bitcoin didn't quite do. That's broke below the bull market support band, then hit the underside of the bull market support band, and then has come back down. By the way, this line here, which is about $2,800, I drew this line a long time ago. Look at all the confluence at this line. And where are we right now? We are at this line. So, the issue that we have for Ethereum is as this comes down and this line doesn't move, it's going to get stuck. And I think before May, we see a move or something similar down to about $2,200. Now think of it this way, if Bitcoin's at 88,000 and I'm saying that we're going to go to 80,000, that's about a 10% move for Bitcoin over the next few months. And it might be a wick, it might be a day, it might be two weeks, whatever it might be. A 10% move for Bitcoin is felt more by the alts. So Bitcoin goes down 10%. You might find Syrup goes down by 35%. You might find Ethereum goes down by another 20 or 30%. Look at where we went to. We went to 4,700. We've already come down massively from there. So worst case scenario for me, $2,200. And that's why I nearly sold my Ethereum today, because I do think we could get back into this kind of range here, which is between about 22 and 28. But again, until we get there, there's no confirmation, if that makes sense. We're holding this line, and the only way to know if this is going to work is if we come up again and get rejected, then it's straight down. Or we break this line because Trump said something naughty or nasty about somebody, and we break down even more. That's where we are. So I think $80,000 for Bitcoin. I think $2,200 for Ethereum. They're my bottoms. But they're not the local bottom, which I think we might be putting in. I think there are bottoms for the bottom of the bear market. And if we do go lower, 74,000 on Bitcoin, $2,000 for Ethereum. But again, whatever you say, it can't go lower. It always does. So I'm going to go for 80 and 2,200. I'm going to put my neck on the line. And if the caveat is that my neck can't be on the line, then I'm going to go a little bit above 74,000 and a little bit above 2,000. But I do think 2,200 will hold. Now then, I'm glad you are fine. Let's make sure everybody is fine over here. Everybody's fine over here, apart from my face seems to have frozen. Right then, Solana ETFs keep absorbing capital as inflows extend past 2 weeks. This is a common theme. We saw this with XRP. We saw this with Ethereum. We saw this with Bitcoin. What tends to happen when these key ETFs go live, Solana, XRP, Bitcoin, and Ethereum, they just suck a very large amount into them. And then it starts to fade away, and then we start to see some outflows. XRP, I think, had, 15 days, 20 days of inflows. And then it started to have a couple of days of outflows. Solana has seen over 2 weeks worth of inflows. What does that mean? I think it means we're going to see some outflows over the next few weeks. Doesn't mean it's the end of the world for the Solana ETF, does it? One swallow does not make a summer. And I imagine one snowflake does not make a winter either. Solana ETFs have now recorded more than 2 consecutive weeks of net positive inflows, signaling steady institutional demand, even as broader crypto remains selective. I mean, that is pretty decent. These are the inflows. That is pretty decent. Now, of course, you're going to see these massive green candles at the very beginning because that's when the demand is the highest. But even when it starts to fall off and you're seeing 400 million, 500 million, these are still good numbers. These are still really good numbers. The daily net inflow is $1.87 million a day going in. That's $1.87 million of Solana disappearing off the market every day. Total net assets is 1.08 billion, and if you look at the market caps, for example, Solana is 69 million. So 1 million of 69 million is about 1.5% of all of the Solana is now locked up in an ETF. Again, it doesn't sound like a lot, but we're not going to sit here and play with numbers. There's a lot of Solana knocking around, but a lot of it is locked up. I think 30% of Solana is now locked up, something like that. 1.5% into the ETFs. How much is left on exchanges? That's the one thing that I don't know about Solana. I know what it is for Ethereum, I know what it is for Bitcoin, I know what it is for Solana, but these are good numbers, okay? You can't, and I've said this many times before, you can't compare Solana with Ethereum and Solana with Bitcoin when it comes to ETFs. Bitcoin will always smash every other ETF in terms of inflows, outflows, and volume. It simply will. Then comes Ethereum. Ethereum is 6 times bigger than Solana. So, of course, the numbers are going to be probably 5 to 7 times bigger than Solana. So always look at it in the context of itself, not in the context of Ethereum or Bitcoin. So 2 weeks of green, why it matters. It reflects allocation decisions rather than short-term trading. A 2-week stretch of positive flow suggested that buyers are stepping in methodically, absorbing supply instead of chasing price spikes. Very true. The accumulation phase has occurred without a sharp upside breakout in Sol's price. Also very, very true. That divergence implies demand is being expressed through regulated vehicles first rather than through aggressive spot or derivatives speculation. Very, very true. Solana ETF staying green for 2 weeks. The data points to persistent institutional interest and a willingness to build exposure at current levels. This does not guarantee immediate upside. It strengthens the case for Sol. Now, very quickly, we'll look at the Sol chart today. It is a Monday, and we did used to do all the charts on a Monday. And I kind of stopped doing that after Christmas, I think. But for me, and I haven't looked at the Sol chart in a very long time. God knows what's written on this chart. Oh, well, we appear to have a white line down here. So we've got $102 as the bottom. Move that back up there. Again, similar pattern to Bitcoin, similar pattern to Ethereum. Broke through the bull market support band, didn't even get to the underside of the bull market support band, and then we have come back down. Again, the market structure, the market sentiment follows the market. Everything will follow that. Unless something magical happens with a specific alt, everything kind of follows this. We have seen this, this, and this on Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. We could probably go and look at many, many other coins and see exactly the same moves. So when you're looking at your bag of alts and you're saying, why is Aerodrome doing so badly? Why is BNB doing so badly? Why is Hype not doing so well? Just look at the market as a whole. We've kind of done this. Now, again, Solana, where could it go if we were to look at some kind of real bearish scenario? I think $100. And if we lose $100, we're probably going to come down to about $80. But again, we're going to have a subdued bear market. We had a subdued bull market. We're going to have a subdued bear market. We did rally to just under $300. We're down at $122. What's that? 60% down already? I think that's a decent pullback for the bull market. That's for the bear market, sorry. Now, if we go to, let's say we go to $100, that's pretty much a 66% pullback for Solana. At this stage, with an ETF, with more institutional adoption, with the treasuries, I think this must clearly be some kind of bottom at about $100. Now, again, 10% move on Bitcoin to the downside is going to be more for others. Ethereum, I've already said, could go to $2,200. That's a 20% move to the downside. 20% move to the downside for Solana takes us below $100. So maybe $80. But I think we've had and I've said this before as well, we've had the majority of this move in a very short pattern. And if we go back, now, of course, this is a bit difficult to see because we had FTX collapse and it absolutely kicked the nuts out of us. But you see this. You have this period down here in the red zone, which is the kill zone. And the problems really for Solana was this. And this was the FTX collapse. That was FTX collapsing. Okay? The sentiment on Solana absolutely destroyed for a very long period of time. And it took one whole year, and I remember talking about this at the time, it took an entire year just for the price of Solana to get back to what it should have been in the bear market. So it went so far below the the bear market targets that it took so long to recover. Then we saw the rally up. We've seen the breakdown. I don't think we're going to go that far down on Solana. I don't think we're going to go that far down on Ethereum. But we're in a bear market, and we are going to see more downward action. But it doesn't mean we're going to go down and stay there. I don't think we're going to see 2023 again. I really don't think we're going to see 2023 again. We have so much more legislation. We have ETFs. we have adoption, we have treasuries. We're not going to see 2023 again. The same way we're not going to see 2018 again. I know every cycle is different, but I just don't think we're going to. I think we're going to have a hollow bottom. Talking about bottoms again, aren't we? Maybe we should just call the show Crypto Bottom. Anyway, let's move on very quickly. What time is it? We're probably not going to get through everything we want to talk about today because I've nattered for a very long time. And we are at, you know what? Let's not do the Clarity Act. You know what? Who cares? I care, and you will care, but maybe you'll care tomorrow. Let's look at something a bit more fun, okay? If you ever read a person say stuff like this on Twitter, unfollow them. If you ever see anybody make a video like this, unfollow them, okay? This is the biggest pile of horse crap you're ever going to read, okay? If I had Ronaldo's physique, intelligence, hair, and money, I would be as good as Ronaldo. Okay? Number one, I've got bad knees. Number two, I've got a bad back. I'm certainly losing my hair, okay? And I'm a lot older than him. I'm never going to be Ronaldo. XRP is never, ever going to be Ethereum. They are two different things. If this banana was shaped and tasted like a pear, it would be a pear. This is like a 4-year-old in a playground, okay? Puts a red hat on and goes, look, I'm Santa Claus. XRP could reach $9.60 if it matches Ethereum's $583 billion market cap. Gary Ponce, we've had you on the show before, my friend. You need to change your surname because that surname means something completely different where I'm from. This is garbage. I don't care who he is. I don't care what his job is. I don't care how much education he's had. This is a 3-year-old's article, and you fall for it every time. Not you individually, and not my community, not our community, not Crypto Warehouse community. You as a crypto collective fall for it every time, okay? Crow, with the market cap of BNB, will be $3. Crow will never have the market cap of BNB, okay? Your crappy altcoin, which is a shed in Kosovo, with the market cap of Bitcoin would mean it's $150,000. It's never going to happen, is it? Look at the ludicrousy of what this is saying to you, and it is tapping into the greed in your mind. You sit here and you look at this and you think, you know what? If I buy XRP at $1.80 and it does happen, that's a 6x. I'm going to make 600% my money. It's not going to happen. This is as bad as when people pick a coin that's worth a lot less than $1 and make an article. Where is it? Where's Shiba Inu? There, okay? Come on, Shiba Inu. Here we go. Right, so that's 6 zeros. And people say to you, what would it take for SHIB to go to $1? Or what would happen if SHIB goes to $1? You'll make 76,000% profit on your SHIB, okay? It would also give it a market cap of about $400 trillion, which is worth more than all the assets in the world on the top 50 list combined, okay? It's BS. Don't listen to anyone that tells you about coins that are less than $1 going to $1, and don't listen to this garbage from these people, okay? That's my warning. I'm not going to spend too long talking about it. I'm not even going to talk about what he's saying. It's just not going to happen. I mean, this is the worst website that anyone ever made. XRP with a market cap of ETH. I think Gary didn't have an article to write. I think Gary, it was a Friday afternoon. He'd been to the pub. He'd had a few pints. He came back and his boss said, "Where's the article?" And Gary went, "Oh my God, I've completely forgotten about that article I was writing. Or I didn't save it, or my computer's just crashed and I've lost everything." And he's gone to Grok and he's typed in, "Help me, I need to write an article. Give me an article that shows XRP price going up." And then Grok came back with this. This is crap. Okay, Gary, it's crap. Now then, we've got a little bit of time. We're not going to look at the Wood ETF either. We're going to look at Hedera, because I don't cover Hedera an awful lot. And a lot of people who are quite knowledgeable, a lot more knowledgeable than I am, they like Hedera. And when knowledgeable people like a project that I don't follow, I listen to their advice, okay? And I don't just listen blindly to people. I'll go and do research on stuff like that. I don't hold any Hedera either, okay? That's another important factor. I don't come on here and just talk about coins that I hold. I don't hold the majority of things that I talk about. We've made portfolio videos all the time. In fact, tomorrow, if I remember, I'll bring up the list of tokens that I hold, or I'll publish them on X tomorrow and I'll include them in the stream, just so you know what I hold, okay? It's fair warning. Hedera lands McLaren F1 deal as Davos puts HBAR in the spotlight. This is utterly irrelevant. This is absolutely relevant, okay? Now, Davos, for those of you that don't know, good morning, Vivek. Davos, for those of you that don't know, is a place where the World Economic Forum goes. They go every year. They go in January. It's all the big wigs, all the people that run big companies. CZ was there. Larry Fink was there. David Beckham was there being asked about his son. Like anybody cares. Important people are there. People from all the big major blue chip companies are there. World leaders are there. Keir Starmer didn't go because he's upset that Donald Trump called him an idiot. So Keir Starmer didn't go. Trump was there. He signed his Board of Peas thing, and away we go. But Hedera, now Hedera is talked about with other very large projects. It's mentioned alongside the likes of XRP, especially when they're going to work, have collabs together. Algorand is another one that's mentioned in the same breath. So there's a lot of projects that aren't really in the spotlight that can possibly get a lot of adoption and therefore a lot of value added to them. So HBAR is quietly setting up for a sensational 2026, pointing to two developments: a high visibility role at the World Economic Forum's Davos gathering and a new multi-year partnership with McLaren. I don't care about the McLaren thing at all. Crypto.com have sponsored can't say that name. Anyway, they sponsor fighting, they sponsor arenas, they sponsor things, they do this and that. It's not really made much of a difference as far as I'm concerned. So I don't really care about sponsorships. I know Binance have got Ronaldo. I know a few other exchanges have got football teams. I know Tether are buying Juventus. I get all of that, but I just don't think it's going to drive adoption. So Hedera served as the official sponsor of USA House during the annual meeting in Switzerland, with the network expecting to contribute to senior level discussions on digital assets. It's proud to be the official sponsor of the USA House, blah, blah, blah. Now, an interview segment with Stefan Dace, described as co-founder and CEO of the Hashgraph Group within the HBAR ecosystem, underscores the focus. They are very much focused on the commercialization of enterprise-grade products in the Web3 space, including work with governments and large international companies. They're looking at as a climate infrastructure organization aimed at powering carbon market. Okay, 2.0. Anyway, they are one of the greenest blockchain DLT technologies out there. Nobody cares. But what I wanted to show you very quickly is the fact that HBAR are attending these events, sponsors or not sponsors. Number two, they are out there with other people. And then number three, we can look at, and this is the thing I want to talk about really, is the use cases. So we're not going to look at asset tokenization. We're not going to look at sustainability or payments. We're going to look at AI. And the reason we're going to look at AI is lots of blockchains try to be all things to all men, and they won't work. They'll die a death and they'll fail. Ethereum has been all things to all men because Ethereum was the only blockchain really of choice 4, 5, 6 years ago. Then along came Solana, along came a lot of other chains, a lot faster, a lot quicker. So what did Ethereum do? It focused on what it's really, really good at: being secure, being strong, being robust, and being trustworthy. That's what Ethereum has focused on. Solana's come along and been the DJ gambling chain of choice. Look at me. I'm going to go and set up 100,000 tokens, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to live stream setting up tokens and rugging. Hedera didn't do any of that. Hedera has focused on what I would consider to be very businessy objectives, but businessy objectives that are quite focused as well. It might not look focused. If I show you this list here, you might think that's loads, but it's not really. Forget sustainability. Forget asset tokenization. They're all very, very simple things to do. Forget decentralized identity. Again, a very simple thing to do. You have got DeFi. You've got many other things, but AI. So what they have got down here is a studio to allow for you to create a trusted AI project. Then they have a list of targeted partners. Financial services, okay? Now, there aren't many companies out there who are looking at AI for financial services. Now, the reason that's important is if you are BlackRock or you are Santander and you're coming to crypto and you don't know Tom from Adam, you're going to look for partners who are trusted. And there is a clique of trusted partners for stuff like this. Forget the Solanas and the Ethereums for a minute. Cardano is certainly trusted. Algorand, XRP, certainly trusted. HBAR, certainly trusted. So if you're a financial institution and you're saying, right, we want to do some AI projects, who are we going to use? Well, you can take XRP out of the equation immediately because they're focused on cross-border payments, stable coins, and all that kind of stuff. You partner with something like HBAR. And this is a long-term thing, okay? Look at the wordage. Financial services, trust, trusted AI, okay? This is not a Grok-generated website. This is something that they are focusing on. Financial services and AI. That's the one thing I think Hedera will work for, because every other person who's doing this is tiny. Small market cap, small team. Hedera have been around for a while. They have an awful lot of fingers in pies. People who have pressed palms with other relevant people. If you went to CZ, for example, and said to CZ, right, CZ, who can I go and talk to about financial services and AI? Okay. CZ will probably reel off a list of finance-related projects. Maybe Quant, maybe XRP, maybe he'll throw Cardano out there. Maybe he'll throw any Algorand out there. He'll certainly throw out HBAR. Okay. And that's not saying that CZ is endorsing HBAR and Hedera. What I'm saying is somebody asks CZ's opinion, which projects would you trust? Which projects would you look at? I think he would certainly put Hedera into that conversation. Now, again, they've been around for a while. I don't hold any Hedera because I don't want to hold every asset that ever exists, but I certainly think they're worth a look. Okay? Have a go and have a look at their project. Do some learning about a project and learn about Hedera. Learn about Chainlink as well. Chainlink is another project that I think you should be certainly understanding on a higher level, because yes, could Hedera fail? Absolutely. Could Hedera lose out if XRP came along and said we're going to do an AI solution? Of course. If XRP came along and said we're actually going to run the stable coins ourselves, well, Algorand, Hedera, those types of projects will also go to the buy side. Could Hedera be bought out by XRP? Certainly. So there's loads of things that could go wrong. The speculative nature of crypto is Hedera hasn't been around for 30 years. XRP has, I think, been around for a very long time, but by the by, Algorand, these projects are quite new. So it's speculation, yes, but I think they're going to be, hopefully, a really good player. And like I said, I just don't believe that Hedera is going to disappear. Now then, what is the situation for Syrup in February or March? What I'm going to do is I did a live stream on a week last Saturday, and I do a live stream twice a month on Syrup and Maple Finance, an update live stream. And if you go over to, let me just very quickly show you. Let me go to Binance Square. Let's see if this works. Right. So if you're on Binance Square and you don't follow me, what are you doing? Okay, we're at 10,720 followers. We need to get to 30,000, by the way. We need to get to 30,000 followers so we can get a verified badge. But the reason I'm bringing this up is to show you what we do and what... Replay. There we go. So, this one, which I can't bring up, Maple Finance update. That was on the 17th of January. So the 31st of January, which is next Saturday, I will be doing a live stream on Maple Finance. So, like I say, I do 2 a month. The reason I started doing the live streams on Maple Finance and Syrup is they started off very small. We were with them when they were very, very small. They're now massive. They're the biggest on-chain asset manager in the world. We talk about Maple Finance. We were making videos about them, and then they just simply did too much. They started partnering on Solana. They're now on Base. They listed Syrup USDC or USDT over on Binance as well. They did too much for us to make videos about. We would be making 8 videos a week. So we started to do live streams. So the live stream I did 2 weeks ago was about the end of 2025. The live stream I'm going to do on Saturday will be about what's happened in the last 2 weeks with regards to them launching on Base. And that's a big move, okay? We said in our previous few streams that we've done about Maple Finance is that we think they're going to expand, and we actually picked, if I remember correctly, we said they would expand to the Binance Smart Chain. That's what we said. Now, whether they do that or not is a different matter, but the point of the matter is they're going to expand to different chains. And Syrup USDC, Syrup USDC, which are their two dollar yielding assets, those are the two things that's driving their expansion. So we're going to talk about that on Saturday. We're going to do a live stream about it. And if you want to come along, Manjeet, and ask questions, feel free. Now, in terms of the price of Syrup, we said at the start of the show, Syrup is simply going to follow the market. But the thing to remember is the value of a token, in crypto especially, does not represent the value of a business. You have a lot of tokens which are valued in their billions and billions and billions, and their project is probably worth a few $100 million. Conversely, you have a project like Maple Finance, which I think the token price this year, for me, should be, and I've said this before, I said this last year as well, it should be $1.20. Now, $1.20 is not a number I've picked out of the sky and gone, oh, I wonder. Right? It's actually about 4x from where we are now. And that gives it a market cap of over $1 billion. Not 10 billion or 100 billion, $1 billion. Why? It's the largest on-chain asset manager in the world. And it's valued at 400 million. Okay? The value of the business is more than the value of the token. I could say the same thing about Aerodrome, probably say the same thing about Uniswap, probably say the same thing about Jupiter. There's loads of other projects out there. Syrup and Maple Finance are not special when it comes to that. But we are now at the point in crypto where you have to put your trousers on and you have to answer this single question. When you look at a project, any project, ask this question: how does it make money? That's all you've got to do. Somebody comes along and says, oh, I've got this amazing token, it's called Mike Coin. First question, how does it make money? You watch Dragon's Den. I'm sure they ask those similar types. I don't watch Dragon's Den, by the way, but I've seen a few clips. I'm sure they'll say to the guy, how much have you sold? How many orders have you had? How much money have you got? What's your profit margin? Right? So let's get this right. Crypto is this unique bubble where we don't care about how much money it makes. We don't care how much profit it makes. It's just there. We're going to buy it. It's going to 100,000x. No. You buy projects that make money. You buy projects that make a profit. You buy projects that add value. End of story. Okay? Does WolfSwap make money? Yes. Aerodrome, Jupiter, Uniswap. Why do they make money? Because they're DEXs. They take a fraction of every transaction. What matters is the volume that goes through that chain. So they make money. Look at other projects. Does Ethereum and Solana make money? Of course they do, because they're very highly popular chains. But then you can go to another chain. You know, Bearer chain, for example. Does it make any money? Nope. There was a chain the other week. It made $24 in on-chain fees in 24 hours. $24. A blockchain made $24 in fees. Is that blockchain going to exist in 3 years' time? No. Sui, say, how much money does Sui as a blockchain make? Ask that question. Why is Sui promoted so much by so many people? It's the best thing. Yes, it's got incredible tech. Yes, I hold some of it. But where's the money? Show me the money, okay? Show me the money. Anyway, good morning, Kishan. Good morning to you. I hope you are really, really well. Right, listen, I better go. I've been ranting for ages now. It's 12:10. You are all legends. Thank you for showing up. We've actually had some good viewing numbers today. I don't know what the actual numbers are going to come in at, but listen, it's greatly appreciated that you come on here and listen to me rant, okay? Now, I want to do an AMA for those of you that are still here. I want to do an AMA because one thing I notice is people come in here and they listen, okay? They listen. I would want to do an AMA to answer your questions. Back in the day, 2 or 3 years ago, people would send questions in and ask questions. I don't want you to stop asking questions, and you have. Now, maybe that's because you're just absolutely transfixed with what I'm saying. Maybe I've sent you to sleep. I don't know. But I want to do an AMA, and I might do it on YouTube and Binance Square. But I'm going to do an AMA, and I'm going to schedule it. I'm going to signpost it, and I'm going to put it in chat. And I want you all to think of one question. Now, think of it this way. If Kishan, KB, Mags, Manjeet, Vivek, Danny, I'm not going to get Mary to ask me a question. She'll ask me how to invade Iceland or something. Hidden agendas. If you all ask me one question, that's probably 10 to 12 questions. Now, 10 to 12 questions in an hour is 5 minutes an answer. I think that is easily doable, okay? But I want to answer your questions. I don't want you to ask me questions to make me sound good. I want you to ask me a question, okay? And I want to be honest with my answers. So I'm going to schedule it. Maybe we'll just do it for the OGs. I don't know. But I want to help more because sitting here and talking is great. And, hopefully you get a lot out of these streams. But I want to answer your questions. And you might not have questions. Fine. You might just want to turn me on and then drive to work and listen to me on the way back. Or Packer, I know Packer doesn't listen in live because he's in New Zealand. So maybe he can ask the questions under this video. But I want to answer your questions. And like I said, if I get 20 questions or 5 or 10 questions, it doesn't matter about the number. It's just answering what you need. And it's a lot easier to do it in an AMA because I can just sit here and answer your questions. Anyway, it's now 12:12. I've overrun by a long way. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I am back tomorrow. I don't know if the Oracle is streaming tonight. We'll have to find out. He has done a video. I've put the video live on YouTube. I put the video live on X. It's about the Moonpack conversion. I know Tariq has already converted. I know Kabir has already converted. I know a few of you have already converted anyway. So he's put a video up about that. I've put that live today. So go and check that out. It's just basically TLDR is this. That token no longer has a lot of sell pressure. That token is now only on one blockchain. And therefore, at some point, that token's price should appreciate significantly. But anyway, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. See you all in the morning. Bye-bye.